23%. 1 in 4. Harvard MBA graduates could not find a job 3 months after graduating. Let that sit for a second. Not community college, not a state school, not a for-profit university with a billboard on the highway. Harvard, the single most brand-recognizable institution in the history of American education. The place that has produced presidents, billionaires, and Supreme Court justices for 4 centuries. And 1 in 4 of its business graduates, people who cleared every academic hurdle, paid 6 figures for the credential, networked for 2 straight years, couldn't get hired. So here is the question nobody in power wants you to ask. If they can't get in, what chance do you have? Here is what makes this story dangerous. On paper, everything looks okay. The unemployment rate? Around 4%. Practically textbook full employment. Politicians on both sides of the aisle are out here taking credit for it. The stock market is doing its thing. Corporate profits are healthy. LinkedIn is flooded with job listings, millions of them. It looks like opportunity, but recent college graduates are sitting at a 5% unemployment rate, above the national average. That has not happened in over a decade. And for college graduates specifically, we are at levels not seen since the pandemic. Think about that math. The overall economy looks fine, but the people entering it for the first time, people who did everything right, who went to school, who got the degree, who followed the instructions, are worse off than the general population. This is not a rough patch. This is not bad luck. Something structural has changed, and it was changed deliberately, quietly, and without your consent. Here is where it gets genuinely sinister. A 2022 study tracked over 300 job applications submitted by real candidates with real qualifications. 12% received any response at all. 5% received expressed interest. 0, not 1, resulted in a hire. But here is the part they buried in the footnotes. Candidates who met over 90% of the listed job requirements were more likely to be ghosted than candidates who met less. Read that again. Being more qualified made you less likely to hear back. How does that happen? Why would a company ignore its most qualified applicants? Because in many cases, the job was never real. In 2024, surveys of recruiters found that roughly 1/3 admitted their organization had posted job listings that were not being actively filled. Analysts estimate that as many as 1 in 4 job postings in the United States may be inactive at any given time. 1 in 4. These are called ghost jobs, and the reasons companies post them reveal something deeply cynical about how corporate America now operates. Some post ghost listings to build a passive talent pool, a database of desperate people they can dip into later for free without ever committing to actually hiring. Others post them to project growth to investors and the market. A growing company posts jobs, even if it has no intention of filling them. But the one that should make your blood pressure spike? More than half of companies using ghost job listings said they did so to make their existing employees believe that help was coming, to reduce frustration, to prevent turnover, to keep people working harder under the false impression that relief was on the way. They were lying to their own staff, openly, strategically, and posting fake jobs was the mechanism. There is currently no federal law against this. A 2025 Congressional Research Service report flagged it as an emerging labor issue. Several states proposed legislation. None has passed. So the next time a politician gets on television and points to the number of job postings as proof that the economy is thriving, understand what you are actually looking at. A significant portion of those listings are theater, performance art designed to manipulate perception, and lawmakers know it and have done nothing. Even if the job is real, getting to a human being is its own obstacle course designed to eliminate you before anyone ever reads your name. Almost every major company now runs applications through what are called applicant tracking systems, ATS. These are automated software programs that scan your resume, score it against the job description, and rank you algorithmically. The vast majority of candidates are filtered out before a single human being sees their application. These systems hunt for exact keywords, not related experience, not demonstrated competence, exact keywords. If the job posting says stakeholder management and your resume says client relations, same skill, different phrasing, you may be automatically rejected. If your resume formatting confuses the system, a table, a column layout, a creative design, you drop to the bottom of the pile regardless of your qualifications. The human connection that once defined hiring, a manager recognizing potential, a conversation revealing character, an interviewer taking a chance on someone with the right instincts, has been replaced by a machine optimized for nothing except pattern matching. And this is the part that should enrage you politically, regardless of which side you sit on. Companies lobbied for fewer hiring regulations, arguing that the free market would naturally connect the right talent to the right roles. What they built instead was an automated wall, and they are hiding behind efficiency language while an entire generation bounces off it. Out of 3.8 million jobs currently listed on LinkedIn, nearly 40% of positions labeled entry-level require 3 to 5 years of prior experience. Entry-level. A 2023 study across 8 countries found that 94% of employers required applicants for entry-level tech roles to already have relevant work experience. In the last 5 years alone, the number of skills required on a typical job listing has grown by 20%. So here is the trap they built. You cannot get the job without experience. You cannot get experience without the job. The only escape route is internships. But competition for internships has gone nuclear. Citadel received 69,000 applications for internship positions last year and accepted 300. That is a 0.4% acceptance rate for an internship. And then the final twist of the knife? 47% of internships in 2022 were unpaid. This matters economically in a way that should be a national scandal. Paid interns average 1.4 job offers after graduation. Unpaid interns average less than 1. The data is unambiguous. If you cannot afford to work for free, your odds of landing a job after graduation drop below 100%, even if you do everything else correctly. Think about what that means structurally. We have created a system where access to the workforce, the real workforce, with real offers, is partly gated behind the ability to work without compensation. Wealthy students can afford to take unpaid internships at prestigious firms. Students on financial aid often cannot. So the system quietly filters by class, labels it experience, and presents itself as a meritocracy. This is not a meritocracy. It is an inheritance test with extra steps. Here is the conversation that political leaders on both sides are actively avoiding, because neither party has a good answer. Artificial intelligence is not coming for jobs in some distant science fiction future. It is already here. It is already replacing entry-level positions. And the people most affected are the exact people trying to enter the workforce right now. Some major tech companies have already stopped hiring junior developers entirely, not paused, stopped. Because an AI model can now perform a meaningful portion of what a junior developer does. Faster, cheaper, around the clock, without benefits or a salary. Goldman Sachs projected in 2023 that AI could displace up to 300 million jobs globally. Anthropic's own CEO has warned that automation could eliminate a large share of entry-level roles within 5 years. The Federal Reserve data backs this up. Hiring has slowed to its weakest pace in years, and job cuts are up nearly 50% year over year. And here is the political problem nobody wants to name plainly. We are debating ghost jobs and visa programs and degree requirements while the entire category of entry-level work is being quietly deleted from the economy. The argument happening in Washington right now is about who gets to compete for jobs that AI is in the process of eliminating. We are rearranging deck chairs. Now, the fight that is dominating the headlines, the H-1B visa program, and the Trump administration's proposal of a $100,000 fee on every new H-1B application. Here is the honest version of this story, free of the spin from either side. The H-1B program was originally designed to bring specialized foreign talent to the United States for roles where genuine skill gaps existed. PhDs in niche engineering fields, rare technical expertise that American universities were not producing at scale. That was the stated purpose. Over time, it evolved into something else. Companies discovered they could use H-1B workers for entry-level tech positions, the exact roles that used to be first rungs on the ladder for American computer science graduates. It was legal, it was cheaper, and it was used systematically. Picture a computer science major graduating with $80,000 in student debt, ready to start a career in tech, only to find that the junior developer positions they spent 4 years training for have been outsourced or filled by workers brought in specifically because they will accept lower wages. The proposed $100,000 fee changes the math. If hiring a foreign worker for an entry-level tech role now costs 6 figures before their first day, companies will think twice. The theory is, they will turn to the pool of qualified American graduates they have been overlooking and actually hire them at competitive wages. The theory is sound, the political argument for it is legitimate. But here is the part that gets buried in the culture war noise surrounding this debate. There is another possibility, and it may be more likely. If bringing workers to the United States becomes prohibitively expensive, many companies, especially in tech, where remote work is already normalized, will not turn to American graduates. They will offshore the work entirely. Move the department to India, Eastern Europe, Latin America, anywhere that labor is significantly cheaper and U.S. immigration policy is completely irrelevant. The same outsourcing that hollowed out manufacturing towns across America in the 80s and 90s could now hit white-collar jobs. Not because of visa programs, despite eliminating them. So the policy being celebrated by one side as a protection for American workers may, under certain conditions, accelerate the exact displacement it claims to prevent. Not always, not everywhere, but enough to ask the question seriously. And the people who will find out which scenario actually plays out? The graduating class of 2026, sending applications into a market that has already been reshaped around them. Let's put the whole picture together. Job fraud and employment scams, fake listings, fraudulent recruiters, phishing through job boards, grew from $90 million in reported losses in 2020 to over $500 million in 2024. Graduates are not just losing opportunities in this market, they are losing money. The United States spends less than 0.1% of GDP on active labor programs, job training, employment incentives, public hiring initiatives. Most developed nations spend significantly more. We have systematically disinvested in the infrastructure that helps people enter the workforce, then watched as the private sector filled that vacuum with ghost jobs and algorithmic filters. And Harvard economist David Deming put the corporate logic plainly. Young workers are investments. In times of economic uncertainty, investments are the first thing businesses cut. Not the last, the first. That is not a harsh take. That is a CEO's financial model. You are a liability with a future upside, and right now the future looks uncertain, so you wait. Businesses are not evil. They are rational. The problem is that the system built around their rationality has left an entire generation without an entry point. Here is what this moment actually is, stripped of the political noise. This is not a story about a generation that is too soft, too entitled, or too picky. That narrative is being used deliberately to redirect your anger toward the people competing beside you rather than toward the systems that built the cage. This is a story about institutions that made choices. Ghost jobs are a deliberate choice. Algorithmic hiring filters are a business decision. Requiring experience for entry-level roles is a policy within companies. Slashing labor investment below 0.1% of GDP is a political choice made over decades by both parties. None of this is fate. None of this is the neutral outcome of a free market working as intended. These are decisions made by people in rooms you were not in, about your future, without your input. Understanding that, clearly, without bitterness, as strategic intelligence rather than grievance, is the first real advantage you can have in this market. Because the graduates who navigate this era well will not be the ones who played the broken game most aggressively. They will be the ones who saw the machine for what it is and built roots around it. Direct outreach past the ATS, portfolio first proof of work. Companies small enough that hiring is still human. Markets where the old gatekeepers have not yet built their walls. The ladder was not just hard to climb, it was systematically removed. Knowing that is not hopelessness. It is information, and information, used correctly, is the only leverage left. Every generation inherits a set of rules. The smart ones figure out which rules still apply. The exceptional ones figure out which ones never did.